Welcome everybody to the DC New 52 review. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode. I am your host, Pauly DC, and let's get into another one of these things. Today, I will discuss Batman The Dark Knight Volume 1. It was titled Night Terrors, and it was written by David Finch and Paul Jenkins, with art by Mr. Finch and Richard Friend, with the first 9 issues being released between November 2011 to July of 2012. This series was the third one to star the Caped Crusader alongside Detective Comics and the main Batman title, with those two mainly focusing on long-term stories that brought in big crossovers and new characters, while this one gave spotlight to the titular hero's extensive rogues gallery with a few newcomers along the way. Issue number 1 begins on a wicked shot of Gotham City. I definitely became a big fan of Mr. Finch's art after viewing it, and as the night arrives, Batman is zipping across the city in one of his many air vehicles, so he can make a quick change into Bruce Wayne while roof trotting in order to attend a Wayne Enterprises event just to let out some crappy jokes. Later on, Bruce is chatting with a Congressman Stricker, but they are interrupted by smug internal affairs cop Detective Forbes, who grills him about being a financer to Batman and also wants to know which Gotham PD people are associated to him. Oh, I don't know, maybe the guy who turns on the bat signal can usurp most others to question him and meets with him alone. Anyway, these two are now interrupted by original creation Jaina Hudson, an attractive Indian American with a diplomat father. And talk about a one-note gal. I was genuinely surprised that her and Bruce weren't banging on a bed made of Kama Sutra books by the end of this. Things then briskly cut over to Arkham Asylum, where a massive breakout is going down, giving us the first glimpse of many Batman rogues. We got Mr. Freeze, Clayface, Vortex aka Zebra Man, the Reaper, Fright, the Mortician, even Ragdoll, who looks like a clown from hell here. The Dark Knight hits the scene, immediately organizing and rallying the responding SWAT teams while he leads the charge into the asylum, kicking lots of ass along the way, and for some reason asking for Harvey Dent or Two-Face. But first he runs into a, Playboy bunny? What in the world? Did a page from another certain magazine get slipped in here by accident or something? Nope. This is a real character called the White Rabbit. More to come on her as this story goes on. For now though, Batman is suddenly greeted by a supersized Two-Face saying, "Call him One-Face now." Why? I don't get it. Issue number 2 opens on Batman taking a severe beating from, One-Face. And P.S. if you were reading the 3 books our main character was in, you know the amount of abuse he's taken throughout just the Volume 1s is quite absurd. Hard to believe is what I'm saying. This assault ends early though, as Harvey starts to bleed from his eyes and passes out. Some answers are given on this next when Batman meets up with Police Commissioner Jim Gordon to find out almost all of the Arkham patients were dosed with some kind of drug that turned them all into bulked out freaks. Gordon then goes on about how Forbes is on him over the relationship these two have, along with being on partial reinstatement for his position, which isn't specified why here, but Batman decided to take off doing his disappearing thing right in the middle of this. Kinda low, bro. There was also talk of Batman not being the only one to see the White Rabbit in Arkham, so the trusty butler to Bruce Wayne, Alfred Pennyworth, is tasked with looking into her. And apparently he's now a total pervert. Yeah, that gets a yikes right there. Moving on, we get some Bat Family cameos over the following pages fighting a bunch of the escaped and currently extra large Arkham people. Robin and Nightwing are getting tossed around by the ventriloquist Arnold Wesker, and since they broke his doll Scarface, he grabs a new one in the form of sticking an arm into a dead cop. Oh my lord. Batgirl is seen taking on Victor Zsasz, while the rest of the Birds of Prey are fighting Clock King. Even juiced up, all three of them having to be needed for him is kind of embarrassing. And lastly, Batwoman is dealing with... I'm not even sure who that is. This issue then concludes on Batman yelling at Two-Face regarding what happened in the asylum with no reveal said yet, so because this was a detour, the Dark Knight heads casually over to a moving commute train where supposedly the Joker has returned. And since he's not happy to hear this at all, he lets one of the first idiot Joker goons he encounters get turned to pulp. I won't kill you, but don't need to save you indeed. The White Rabbit then makes a second appearance, this time being chased right to jumbo-sized Joker, looking to have killed some of his own goons. Between this and low tunnels, Batman's hardly had to do anything here. Issue number 3 starts with Jumbo Joker's first, I'm not even gonna call it a joke, his first line, definitely not being funny, nor clever, nor sensical. If anything flies into a moving train, it's dying. Also, Joker hasn't been seen since Detective Comics number 1 when his face was skinned off, and it'll stay that way because after Batman puts up a fight, his foe here is revealed to be Clayface Basil Karlo. He then abruptly goes through an eye-bleeding phase and passes out just like Mr. Dent did. With Batman kinda weakened now, White Rabbit goes to stick a needle in him but is stopped by the very unexpected arrival of the Flash Barry Allen. And aside from this convenient save, he's pretty useless here until the end. To be continued. Cutting over to Forbes, he's having a heated talk with a police captain Shipley who's looking into the train car scene that Batman and Clayface were at, with mention of that villain having his own crew even though he typically runs alone. But anyhow, he gets dropped off to Forbes rather excessively, followed by a bit of an out-of-the-normal move for Batman. Instead of outwitting Forbes, getting him to respect him through cunning, fear, or greater good, he assaults the man and then threatens him. Not a good look, bro. Not long later, Bruce is on a date with Jaina with suspicion already that she may be the White Rabbit, along with her remarks about lace panties. Good gracious, woman, behave yourself. Over to the Batcave next, Alfred and Batman have discovered that a main component in the drug that all the Arkham residents were exposed to comes from the rare Virgin Star Cactus. A semi-made-up plant, since there is something similar called the Astrophytum asterius, which is only in vulnerable status and has no known psychoactive effects. Okay, now that Professor Paul is done, Batman suspects that Poison Ivy is involved now, and because she works with the Birds of Prey, she cannot be trusted for some reason. Don't ask me why. Along with the Flash, Batman checks out one of Ivy's lush hideouts, except 3 seconds in, Flash is pricked by a thorn with deadly toxin, meaning he has to run away at top speed before it metabolizes in his blood. Well, so friggin' much for him. Oh, and Poison Ivy isn't even here. Issue number 4 continues right from the previous one, with Batman checking out Poison Ivy's lab and the only trouble he encounters being a giant Venus flytrap. A call then comes in from Wonder Woman saying the Justice League is still dealing with escaped Arkham people like Spellbinder and the Electrocutioner. Alrighty then, we're really bringing in a slew of the Bat-Rogues here. This is all quickly followed by a pissed off Gordon being seen in his apartment leaving a message for Bruce Wayne about him possibly sending Batman after Forbes. If you only knew, Gordo. There's also a bit of continuity from Detective Comics Volume 1 with Jim saying what the doll maker did to him, but if I remember, he lost an organ or something like that. Why would he complain about his face here? Anywho, Alfred and Batman are now looking into a clue that Poison Ivy left in her place for him to find, which are coordinates to somewhere called Harmone Island. And Pennyworth's closing comments here, perving on the White Rabbit while eating ice cream. I'm sorry, this is getting too weird. Speaking of her though, she spots a recently taken off bat plane seemingly at the same moment Jaina is being stood up on a date by Bruce, so perhaps they're not the same person. And we also see the Flash is still running for his life, plus a subplot that went nowhere regarding Alfred's high blood pressure. The worry is he was being pushed too far, and the New 52 pushed him quite hard with hardly another mention of this health ailment. Moving right on, there's a candidate here for the most random cameo in a Volume 1 when Deathstroke's Slade Wilson attacks Batman in his plane saying he wants to kill him for free. What spurred this event, or better yet, how the hell did Slade even get on top of the Batplane with no air transport of his own being shown? Do you really expect me to have an answer is a better question. Batman hardly escapes and has to take a nasty landing on his designated location, thus ripping up another Batsuit. Good thing the person that makes these is quite wealthy, because man does he go through them in high supply. This issue then wraps up with Batman going toward a creepy cabin that contains a longtime popular villain, the Scarecrow Jonathan Crane. Issue number 5 kicks off on Batman looking literally useless and clueless as he seems to rush Scarecrow with zero plan, only to get hit with some of his long-time used fear toxin gas, which was suspected to be part of the mystery drug in Arkham. This event is the beginning of some crazy visions, which of course includes Martha and Thomas Wayne. I literally think it's illegal to not have them present when Batman is having mental trauma. However, this doesn't last for long as he keeps it together long enough to fight back against Scarecrow, emphasis on scare here, and when stated that Batman has overcome the fear gas before, a new extreme version of the tincture is presented and injected straight into his veins. So, with the Dark Knight now laid out on the floor, a new visitor drops in. Superman. No big deal. He goes on to wake up his Justice League comrade, only for the response to be Batman lashing out on him, going on a pretty wild rant about hating Superman and his fake campaign to be America's superhero, even though he's not even from Earth. Supes then retorts by saying he's Batman's physical superior in every way. Well, no shit, you're a solar-powered alien that can move planets, but anyway, it would appear that Scarecrow gave Batman friggin' Compound V because he's leaping tall bounds and dealing damage to Superman, finally ending with him fighting full force and sending Superbat into a life-ending injury with his defensive strike. These cliffhangers, if we can even call them that, are always strange to me. Everyone knows he'll be just fine in the next edition. Issue number 6 has quite a bit going on in it. For beginners, there's some more Wayne parent trauma as Batman is waking up to see an apologetic Superman, however he is thanked instead, with it being said that this fight burned out the drug from his system through adrenaline. And now the Flash must be warned that he needs to push through the same breaking point in order to survive. Walter White then makes an appearance here. Wait, no, this is Great White Shark. Of course it is. And he's the last of the escaped Arkham dwellers to be rounded up as said by Commish Gordon. Back over to Batman, he is chasing the White Rabbit, who seems to have been teamed up with Scarecrow, and as he tries to attack again, Batman deals with him instantly with some knockout gas. Why the hell didn't you do that in the first place? Superman has found the Flash and is warning him on what to do, but Batman has equally large problems because White Rabbit has another partner. Freaking Bane. And since this is his first major New 52 appearance, I will mention now that he was created in Batman Vengeance of Bane number 1, January 1993 by Chuck Dixon, Dave Monick, Graham Nolan, and Dennis O'Neil. He goes on to kick the crap out of Batman, boasting about breaking his back, an event that took place in the 1993-94 Nightfall story and was canon for this event. Our hero then somehow still has the fortitude to keep fighting right before he is drowned, while also finding out that the drug toxin nonsense going down was Bane's doing. And he's even concocted a new form of venom, the special elixir that gives him his imposing physique, and not only that, but this fresh stuff makes Bane even smarter. Okay? So far, I'm just a tad confused. He's already billed as having a genius level intellect. It would have helped if he had some grand, intricate finale to all this, but here it's just a generic fight. Issue number 7 brings the big Bane plot to an end with him trying to finish off Batman for good. Again, with all this new intellect, and you plan to end things with a giant boulder. Batman was able to sneak away though to an abandoned research base wherein he finds a captured poison ivy in a test tube. She's also totally green here while being mostly Caucasian in the Birds of Prey with only hints of verdant. So yeah. The two then exchange info with Batman saying he's got an antidote to Bane's new formula, while Ivy says he'll have to get him to ingest it. The final battle between the two first takes place atop a lighthouse with Bane again pummeling Batman. Damn, this is getting a bit out of hand. All he gets to do is shock burn Bane a bit before being hurled through the top of the structure next. Cutting to Superman and the Flash again, nearly forgot they're still circling the Earth. Barry here does finally tap out and stops, but doesn't die since he did burn out the toxin at an unknown moment during his run. Slightly anticlimactic, but necessary now because Batman is being dragged down some stairs outside to some cliffs where he is hoisted up in throwback manner by Bane, and basically surrenders when dropping the antidote vial. Seriously? Yup, if it weren't for the Flash somehow showing up at this exact second to catch the liquid which allowed Batman to force Bane to drink it in surprise, well, I'm just gonna hit y'all with a sigh. Batman then shoulder checks his foe off of the cliff. Strong or not, that's a possible murder attempt surely, but Bane just lays down there for a second until being washed away for the Talon spin-off series. And Batman doesn't even give a crap. This whole book has started to feel like a bit of a fever dream. I'm not kidding. On the last page, Jaina is revealed to be indeed the White Rabbit after that villainess disappears into her straight out of an LSD trip. So she's not an exact duplicate, not a ghost, not an astral projection. I guess like the character and a novel type she gets her name from, she's nonsense. Issue number 8 is sort of a one-off, opening with Batman and Gordon investigating a subway car full of citizens that seem to have gone mad and bludgeoned themselves to death. I feel like I haven't gotten a good mention in on how utterly dangerous and full of diabolical shit Gotham is lately, so here you go. The next time we see Jim, he's at GCPD headquarters being told by Forbes that under Mayor Haiti and his orders, the commish must attend psychotherapy until further notice. And his first session is with a female doctor with the last name Prescott, who I couldn't find any info on. The reason I say is because this small segment was actually one of the more intriguing parts for me, and I wish it was expanded on. Meanwhile, Batman searches maps of the tunnels where the commuters went insane, so he heads down there to check it out, only to find Tweedledee and Tweedledum. And believe it or not, these two have been around since 1943's Detective Comics number 74 by Don Cameron, Jerry Robinson, and Bob Kane. Anywho, as Batman fights them off, he says they're the Tweed cousins, Deaver and Dumpson, but his was originally Dumfrey. Not really important because Alfred patches in to show some live feed of a Senator Toomey giving a speech and then shooting himself in the head while other Gothamites carry out similar behavior, and this somehow cues Pennyworth into catching transmissions that are causing this crazy activity. So he sends the location to Batman, leading him right to an often overlooked villain for our Dark Knight, the Mad Hatter. He's obviously got a thing for mental manipulation and is responsible for the recent civilian casualties, which has Batman taking him head on with not much of a fight going down, as Gordon responds to the scene in a helicopter, becoming the target of a highly oversized spear pistol. This mainly just distracts Mad Hatter so Batman can subdue D and Dumb and then shove him off a roof with us not even seeing where the guy ended up. Also, why wasn't White Rabbit involved with these three characters of all, you ask? I don't know, and I don't care. Issue number 9 wrapped up this book with a Night of the Owls tie-in, and since I covered that crossover, you can check out what happens in full over there. But for here, I'll just mention that Batman spotting a Talon at one point shortly after putting on the cape and cowl, even though in his Volume 1 he seemed 1000% sure the Court of Owls did not exist, was not good. Aside from that, this Talon named Alton Carver was seen still lurking around Gotham, so maybe we'll see him return sometime. Alright. For the plot, this book had everyone. Bat allies, tons of rogues, GCPD members, even some Justice Leaguers. And obviously this series was put out to give Batman, along with all of these characters connected to him, some breathing room. However, this beginning to the story still felt rather rushed. The White Rabbit / Jaina was a top 5 wasted potential in the New 52, an over-sexualized female who went nowhere, and her being Miss Hudson was very obvious. Some girl dressed in white saying, "Catch me," and then the scantily dressed Rabbit shows up a few pages later. And then there's the Arkham Breakout insanity, which seems to go down every month and is one of the most common used ways to get Bat Rogues back into the wild for future stories, but it gets kinda tricky to keep track of who's in and who's out. Moving over into art, it's sharp, the double-page spreads in each issue really jump out, and all the characters come off menacing or mesmerizing. Now for the dialogue, that part is what came off the most hurried. Not much talking all around, and when there was, it came off slightly rudimentary and a bit ghoulish at times. Each character just came off as simple and underestablished in the ways they spoke. That's gonna do it all for this review for today, and if you've watched until the end, I want to personally thank you for that, and to please like, share, and subscribe. Please follow me on all my social media platforms, and to please join me next time for Nightwing Volume 2.